So now we are back again with the class, and before starting of the topics or the discussion on the classes of Linux, the message I was already shared with all of you in the groups that you people need to check whether you people can see all the courses in LMS, or also you people are able to log in or not, right? So do confirm it. CR, kindly take a look on these things. If there is any problem of anyone, if the message sent by them, you can forward me and I can have a look on the problem, right? So the CR will look into these things. Okay. And
Yes, sir.
okay, and if anyone have any type of problem, they can directly message the CRs. The CR will communicate, right? So please do check it, because in the day or on the day of morning of the exams, if you are going to tell me, then maybe the problem will not resolve. So that's why you have 2 days or 3 days you people in your hand. So we proceed. Let me know all the details by today, so the things can be resolved. I hope there will be no problem. All can have the access and all can actually log in. But still, if anyone have, they can look into it. Fine. Okay. Now coming back to the topic or the point of the class. So we are discussing on the topic of the shared memory, the IPC and the shared memory in our previous classes. And in this regard, we have talked on the different type of processes by the shared memories, the mapping shared, fixed, private, the mapping in ordinary file, the semaphore process, wait and post return. This type of topics we have a discussion, right? Now, the back part, the next part we are going to talk, that is shared access to a file. Okay. But before that, the syllabuses of Linux, the will be, I said that first commands and those particular part we are going to be in the syllabus. So we have a discussion session tomorrow. If anyone has any type of doubt or query, they can tell me or ask me, or also I am going to tell you some questions or problems regarding that we are going to solve, right? Okay, so this shared access to a file, the topic of discussions for today. What happened in this part, the shared access, that we know the different process can communicate with each other using any type of memory mapped regions, this type of particular problems, right? So different process can communicate using memory map regions associated with the same file. So the previous part, the map shared, the part of map share flagging, or the particular process of sharing process, the map share, where we can do the write the immediately reflected of the file rather than the buffering, right? So whatever any type of particular changes is happening, that can be immediately reflected to the particular file, not by holding it any type of buffer. So this map share, the processes are communicating with the help of this map share and the processes. So the map share, using this process of map share, using this process of map share flag actually any writes to a particular region on the memory, any writes to a particular regions on the memory are reflected immediately or transferred immediately to the file and made visible to other processes. So the waiting time for the buffer, that will be not be there. So directly it can communicate and it can have the visible to other processes. So the map shared flag is helping those things for the different processes to communicate using this particular flag, so that any type of write operation can be reflected. So if we don't specify this particular flag, means I'm talking about the map shared flag, what happens that the system, the Linux or Unix system will buffer the write operation will be buffered, and before transmitting to the file, it will be in a position, or it will be in hold in the buffer. So it will not reflect it to the particular file's immediate effect. So there will be a time delaying scenario. And if there is, so sharing of the file will take much time. So specifying or using this map shared flag will help us to overcome this particular problem of holding the scenario into the buffer. Recite using this map shared flag, we are not holding any changes into the buffer. We can directly transfer it to the file so that it can reflect to others. Also, what we can do actually, we can force actually to incorporate this buffer writes into the disk. So suppose now we are not using any type of map flag here, or map shared is not actually using. Considering map shared flag is not opening or not using there. So what we are doing, we are using the writes option to the regions. So without using that map shared flag, we are using a particular my sync scenario. We are using a particular my sync scenario. This my sync flag, this will help us. This my sync flag, this will help us here to force that process to using that memory map region, force the buffer to write into the file disk directly. So means there are two options. One, that is using the map shared flag to communicate. And if there is not using the map shared flag, we are not specifying that map shared flag, we are forcing the system to write the buffer directly to the file using that my synchronization option, my synchronization flag to write directly the buffer scenario into the disk option. So the two parameters here using this memory map region, we are trying to do taking some flag values. So what are some flag values here? One, we can write ms asynchronous, ms asynchronous. So if I write the flag ms async, so this is my flag. So using this ms asynchronous flag, what we can do actually, we update the schedule, not necessary to run before the call returns. We are forcing something. So when that changes was happening and typing or writing something buffer, so it will update the schedule and force that particular part. And using that my synchronize, the update will be forcing immediate effect, and the call of my synchronous will be blocked until it is done. So my asynchronous, it will take some time. It will wait for the update of the schedule and before the call returns. But in the part of my synchronize, we are directly forcing that with the immediate effect. So this my synchronize and my asynchronous, these two particular flags can be used, but at the same time we cannot use both one at a time. So when you are using this my synchronize block of memory or my synchronize flag, that particular flag will be blocked until it is done. That particular scenario of block will flag will be blocked until it is done. And one more flag is there, that is my invalidate. That is one more here, ms invalidate. ms invalidate. So what is happening with the help of this ms invalidate? The file mappings, the whatever the files mapping are going on, it will invalidate so that they can see the updated value. Means when an immediate if it is happening, we need to invalidate that. So that invalidate values need to be there. So ms invalidate will update the mappings quickly, so to update the values for the files. So these flags values in the particular part of Linux or shared in the process of Linux Unix is helping for the shared file map with the address map or address memory address or length of the memory bytes. This type of scenario. So using this memory address, memory length, synchronization is going on. So syntaxes can be something like this. The total synchronization I can write here. My sync bracket in the part of this my synchronization, then memory address. Okay, fine. My synchronization, the part of memory address. Then we need to mention some memory length. Memory length. Okay, memory length. After the memory length, my synchronization, then we can write the process. What flag we can actually do? ms synchronize. So ms synchronize And lastly, after the synchronization process, we need to invalidate that process that directly can see the changes, that can help us directly to see the changes. So we can write ms invalidate. So this is a particular type of syntax. We can see that my synchronize using the memory addresses, the length of the memory, the my synchronization process, and ms invalidate to directly invoke the process reflected to the particular changes of the particular file. So this with this help of this shared memory segments, with the help of this shared memory segments, a user, any type of user of this memory map region, establishing a map synchronization with the particular file. And we can also use semaphores to prevent more than one process from accessing the map memory at one time. So a semaphore techniques we can use here to prevent more than one process and accessing the map memory one at a time. So we are blocking, we are giving permission to one process to add at a time. Not all the process can execute. So using the semaphore wait and post return, using that particular condition 0, 1, we are using to prevent more than one process from accessing the map memory at one time. And also we can use the F control to place or read a write log on that particular file. So this several process using that techniques of semaphores, using the techniques of F control, we can read or write or log on a file. We can read, write, log on a particular file using this particular process. So MS semi synchronization, MS synchronization, MS asynchronization, the memory length, address, invalidate all the process, and then using some semaphore techniques for the wait and post conditions, and the F control to place a read and lock on a particular file. So all the things in the scenario, all the things in a synchronization to access that particular file, to get a particular file, to get a read or write log on a particular file. Now using the next part here, that is some private mappings. So using some private mappings here, right? Just give me a minute. So now the process of this private mappings, the process of this private mappings, what happened here? Specify, we use a specified term map private. We use a specified type, that is map private. This is another type of flag. This map private, using this map private, we are using this flag to map or creates a copy on write region. So we are creating a copy on this write region, means when whatever the segment on the memory is going to be write, the data is going to be write on that particular memory when a thing is going on, that region is going to be part, the write to that region is reflected only with the processes memory. So any write on this particular region, whatever the changes is happening, only write operation is happening on that particular region, is going to be reflected on the process memory, and the processes that map with this file, the processes that are mapped with these files can see the changes, but the process, the other files, the process that is not synchronization or that is not mapped with the same file won't say any kind of changes, won't see any kind of changes. So instead of writing directly to a page shared by all processes, the process writes a private copy of this particular page. So the memory, the using this map private, we are going to deal with all the scenarios to page shared by all the processes, sharing by all the processes, right? So this is a part of private mapping we can actually use there. Now, one more part we have already in the discussion previously, that is the pipe. So the scenario, we all have this, we know that particular talks on discussion, that is piping process, right? So pipe process, that was also a part of shared memory, the IPC, that inter-process communication. So how it is happening? So we can say pipe means pipe is actually used in particular case, that why? To create a connection. Considering a electrical scenario, consider a sewage scenario, the piping, a pipe is used to flow something. Here that name is was taken in the case of that the pipe, the simple name that can have the same meaning, that to connect something. So connecting what? Connecting the memory using some shared memory, using the IPC, inter-process communication, different on the communication on the different networks. This piping process or piping techniques is helping us for this inter-process communications also with the shared memory. So what we can say, that this pipe is a communication device that permits unidirectional or unidirectional communication. So we can say it permits us an unidirectional communication. It permits an unidirectional communication. So piping is helping us to permit an unidirectional communication. So what happened here? The data that is going or having the write mode, that is having some write mode of the pipe is read back from the reading. So write and read, this type of scenario is there. These pipes are a particular serial devices, means some set of serial synchronization is there, and data is reading from the pipe in the same order it was written, flowing through the pipes in the order it is set. The data is read from the pipe in the same order it is written. So a pipe, we can say, is used to communicate between two threads or in a single process or between parents and child process. So pipe overall we can say is communication between two threads. More specifically, we can write communication between two threads on a single device, communication between two threads on a single process, or between parents and child process on a single process, or between parent and child process. So this is a part of pipe. In general, we can say permits an unidirectional communication, and more specifically, we can say communication. It is doing the communication between the two threads on a single process or between the parents and child processes. So in this particular processing of pipe or cell, the symbol we already know that what symbol we use. The symbol for using this pipe, that is this piping symbol. We have already seen this in the previous discussion. So this pipe, the symbol is showing or notifying the pipe symbol, or the command causes this shell to produce two child processes. Suppose we are trying to using two commands. Suppose one is ls and other one is less. So we are trying to make a communication so the process, suppose considering two, one is ls and one I'm trying to use less. These two commands we are trying to communicate with each other. So using the simple very things, we can write the scenario is right can be something like this: dollar ls, the piping less. So this ls and less, by this piping scenario, we can actually understand that there is a piping communication is happening. So this shell creates a pipe connecting the standard output of the ls sub process that with the standard input of less process. So there are two processes, ls and ls. So it creates the pipe connecting the output of the LS. So suppose LS is providing us a particular output, we are getting some outputs from the LS. So this LS coming out the output, then send that particular output to the standard input of LS process. Then by flowing the data, so it is a communication, creating a particular type of communication. So the file name, whatever we are getting with the help of that ls command, are sent to the less command exactly in the same order as they are getting into the terminal, as we are getting through the terminal. Now the thing is, the limitation, the capacity of the pipe data is limited. There is a limitation in the capacity of the piping data. So if the process that have write permission, that write permission process is faster than the read process consuming the data. Means a process, writing process have more actually consuming the data because there is some more performance happening, whereas the reading is only the reading part. At the part of write, it is read and write both are going on. So reading that particular will consume more data. So the writer process will be blocked until more capacity becomes available. If the thing that our writer process is working and it have reached the capacity of the previous block, so it will not function anymore till the time the blocks or the memory blocks or the buffer will be much or many more, right? So the scenario we can say, considering we are creating a buffer or any type of array, we're going to back to this programming part. So the array we are mentioning a data of suppose array 5, right? We are using some memory blocks of 5, but we are trying to add some data of more than 5. So it is not possible to put that. So this is the limitation, is just a simple example of the limitation of the memory block. Whatever we are actually specifying, that is some actually limited. So to increase that, we need to either increase the block size by adding some more memory into that. So this is the thing, that pipe also have the capacity or data capacity of a limitation, and the process, the writer process will not work if the memory is not available for much time. So the pipe is actually automatically synchronizing the processes, synchronizing the processes. Now the things we have already discussed, again I'm going to repeat that how to create a pipe, how we are going to create a pipe. So we have seen a particular lab examples also into the laboratory section. So how to create a pipe, we can say by using simply the pipe command. The very basic or very easy thing is by using simply the pipe command. Pipe command is helping us to create a very piping scenario, right? So suppose we are trying to create an integer array size of 2, and the call of this pipe function or the pipe command store the file descriptors into the array positions of 0 and writing the position 1. So 2 files is 2 memory blocks, 0 and 1. So how to create that particular piping scenarios? So int pipe will be the command to create a particular file. So suppose I am just a simple syntax, int pipe. Okay, then just the name of the array, the simple any part, the name of the array. So considering the name of the array a to memory block of 2. So piping command will help us to create this array of 2 memory blocks. Then we are going to read some data, we are going to write some data, this type of simple process. And then the piping commands will work as in the pipe FDS or read or write data. That's the simple scenario. So by using the simple piping command, we can actually create or doing a creation of a piping pipe. Now the communication that is happening in between of the process, what we as a time of say as we are written already, then in the process of this piping, communication between two threads on a single process or between parents and child process. So the communication between the parents and child process. So every process, a child process have a parent process. In case they are not zombie or in case they are not an orphan process, that is some another scenario. So the pipe, a call to pipe, creating having some file descriptors within the process and with the child process initially. So the process of the file descriptor should match with a similar kind of process file descriptor. It cannot be any unmatched file descriptor. So when we are trying to create a child process, how we can create a child process? What is the command to create a child process? Anyone? What is the command for creating a child process?
So fork.
Fork. So suppose we are using a particular type of command fork to create a child process. So for process fork command will be invoked, and when this fork process will be called, the file descriptors are going to copy it into the new child process. So means whenever we are trying to create a fork, we are using some fork, we are trying to create a child process that have an association with a parent process. So some of the file descriptor of the parent process will be invoked into the child process. So the pipe can connect only with the related process. Just a minute. That piping the using the fork, whenever we're trying to create a child process that have a parent process, and some of the file descriptor from the parent process need to be in association with the child process, need to be in the association of the child process or a similar kind of related process. So process needs to be related so that the descriptor can be invoked from the parents to the child process. So a fork is creating or spawning a new child process, and child inherits the pipe file descriptor. Piping file descriptor means from the parent processes. So the parent process has a similar type of scenario with the child process. So what is happening? The parent is reading or writing something through the pipe. The parent is sending some communication through the pipe to the child process, and child is reading out those communication data. Parent is flowing the data and child is actually reading that communication data. So the process using the piping communication and also the fork to create a new child process, that is invoking the child and the parent, making a communication between the similar or related type of processes. Similar or related type of processes. So the thing is now that we want to create a child process and trying to set up one end of a pipe as a standard input or standard output. So there will be two ends of a pipe, right? If we consider just a simple diagram of a pipe, this is a simple diagram of a pipe, right? By which the data can flow. Consider this is my input incoming data, and consider this is my input output flow. So this is a pipe where a data can come and data can get out. So the similar concept here, that in the process of this child and processes, the piping scenario, one end have a standard input data, one end have a standard output data. So one part will be in the standard input section and one part will be in the standard output section. So the process, the pipe called creates a pipe, place the read and write file descriptor into that particular array, and the program for the child process will be continued. And using a particular DUP2 call, we can actually equate one file descriptor with another. So as I said previous that the file descriptor needs to be same the related process. So how we can actually relate that whether it is a related process or not? The command or that is helping here, that is DUP2 for duplicate. It will check that whether this using by DUP2 call we are actually equating of the files with the another. So descriptor will be matched checking that whether these are the similar or the process is similar or related or not. If not, then it will not work, or if it is, then the data will be flowed from the parents to the child process for the same purpose of same type of file descriptor, for the same type of file descriptor. So equating this file descriptor, if we're getting a good result or if we're getting some equating result, it will share the same file position and also the same set of status flag. So whatever the things that we are invoking from the parent process, all the things, the same set of file position, same set of file status will be incorporated into the child process. And the child will read all the process, all the incoming communication data from this parent's data, and as a standard input, as a particular process of standard input. Right? So this is helping us for the same process. Now this pipe, or a common use of the pipes, we can say to send data or receive data from a program that is running through a sub processes. We have many sub processes that is working or helping to finish the particular task, right? So the pipe is trying to send a data or to receive a data from a program that is running through a sub process. So how this thing can be done? There are two scenarios. One is P open and second one is P close. One is P open and second one is P close. These two functions scenario are there that is helping for a pipe open scenario and pipe closing scenario. This P open and P close function is actually invoking for the pipe process to create a pipe, to open a pipe, pipe open, and to close a pipe. So the P open function, the call of this P open function will create a child process executing the commands, replacing the calls of the pipes, pause, duplicate, whatever the things coming from the parents. With the help of some read, write, this type of data, a return value of the P open will be on the end of the pipe. The other end is connected with a child process for a standard input. So two pipes are connected similarly. From one end, it is having some standard output that is putting into the standard input of another process. So this P open is executed as a shell command in the sub processes, and the shell searches the path to the where it's actually working, from where the thing is actually getting out. So this P close will close the stream written by P open. So when a stream is going to be opened with the help of that P open particular scenario, P close will also be there to close that particular stream. So a input is coming, so the output is going. So the piping scenario, somewhere it needs to be stopped, because if we just consider a flow of a water, see, if we just flow the water through the pipes all the time, for it's a what I can say a condition, considering at the home you have open your water tap that is connected through a pipe. So if we always get it open, then the water in your tank is going to be empty. So the thing, when it is needed, we are opening the particular piping scenario, and when the stream is flowed or when my work is done, when my process is completed, P close will helping us to close that particular process stream. P close will be helping us to close that particular process stream. So P open, P close is the part of this piping scenario for opening a particular pipe or file, or closing a particular stream file. There is another scenario in this particular communication. The type is in the shared memory, that is FIFO. That is first in, first out. So we have this concept in previously of a data structure and algorithm, where FIFO, LIFO, all this scenario was present. So the FIFO is actually the part, a pipe that has its name in a file system. So any processes can be open or closed through this particular FIFO, and the process is either end of the pipe, need not to be maybe related. So in the piping, that needs to be a related process, but in the pipe, in the FIFO, we don't need any type of related. It may not be any related process, right? But that is not an issue. And FIFOs are also is a similar part of working scenario of the piping section. Here the thing is that it is not working any type of related, only the related process. It is working, can also be done with some unrelated processes. So up to this particular part, we are going to talk or have a discussion for today's scenario. Fine. So this is all up to this particular part. The starting of the FIFO we have continued. We have covered this particular part. We are going to stop for today. Now I would like to request all of you, those who have actually not write their names till now in the chat box, write your names for the attendance purpose, so that it can be helpful for the attendance, right? And also at the same time, I have already shared the information. It's repeating again that do check your login status, whether you are able to log in into the LMS or not, or whether after login you can see all the courses of your exams or not. Exam questions you may not see or may see, because maybe some of the questions was uploaded already or not seen. So that is not an issue. Check whether you are able to see the course or not. So if you are able to see the course or not, then fine, you can attend the exam also. If there is no other condition like the pending fees, this type of scenario, right? So that is not in my hand. That is some administration section. But what is in my hand to check that whether you people are able to log in or not, if there is no problem of anything. So do confirm it by today with respective CRs. I again requesting the CRs to communicate with me. If there is anyone having any problem, just take the names and send me in WhatsApp so that I can solve it and also know the reason what is the problem they are facing. So CRs can take it and communicate with me. All the things must be done by today 4 p.m. So there is no problem. Fine. So thank you. This is the part. This is the scenario for today. We are going to meet again in our next classes. And till that time, we are closing our today's scenario. We are going to meet again tomorrow. So thank you all for joining into the session. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, sir.